Coming at you live, coming at you live. It's your boy Skillz, back after multiple weeks off with Skillz On Sportz, a Lingus Mafia production. We got a lot to get into this week. I haven't been on the air with you guys other than a brief episode of Skillz On Sportz when I discussed the Wander Franco situation, the perverted young shortstop with the Tampa Bay Rays. That was about a month ago, maybe a little bit over a month. As far as like a real Skillz On Sportz, full hour long, where we run the gamut of sports topics and sports leagues, we haven't done that in a while. We haven't done that in a long while. I'm hoping to give you at least an hour, based upon the material I've got, and based upon how I have a tendency to ramble on. At the very minimum, I'm going to give you an hour. All right, so sit back, kick back, however you want to do it. We're going to get into different stories going on in the world of the NFL first, leading things off. We'll transition on from there to a few stories that have caught my attention from the NBA, which will be starting up here practice-wise next month. Actually, regular season-wise next month, too, towards the end. And then we'll finish up with a round of MLB stories and numbers and things like that you should be interested in. I didn't do this week a comprehensive run-through of Major League Baseball, because typically when I do this show, I'll run through all the standings. I'll run through all the, who's in first place, who's coming up on the wild card, pennant races, things like that, and give you interesting numbers and things like that. We're not going to do that this time around because I simply didn't have the time to do that level of research. And I'm not going to give you my half-assed, maybe 4-day-old research and information. You deserve better than that. If I can't give you the best, if I can't give you the most updated info, then I'm not going to give you any of the info until I have it. And besides, I have a full trio show, 3-minute show this weekend of the Season Over Fire Everyone Sports Show, which is on my YouTube channel. We'll get into all that later on. Leading things off in the NFL, I want to talk about first Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions. Thursday Night Football, not Monday Night. Thursday Night Football, the Detroit Lions, a few hours ago, came away with a victory against the division rival Green Bay Packers. And I did not know that the Packers, up until 2014 or so, at Lambeau Field, had the Lions numbered to the extent that they did. Apparently, the Lions at Lambeau, from I want to say was in 1971 through 2014, the numbers I had, were 5-27-1 at Lambeau Field against the Packers, obviously. That's hard to do. It's hard to be that dominated by one team, and I've seen it up close with my Golden State Warriors playing in San Antonio. From I want to say that was like the late 90s into the mid-10s when the Warriors would constantly just get handled whenever they went to San Antonio. And honestly, they got handled most of the time San Antonio came to Oakland. And that finally came to an end. Now San Antonio's down. Now we just revenge squashed them, and maybe we'll start a new streak against them as time goes on. Also, I've seen it with my 49ers traveling to let's call it Quest Field in Seattle, do they? Whatever, the Lumix Field, is it? Whatever they call that field up in Seattle now. Who cares? My Niners, would get beaten in Seattle routinely for pretty much all the 2010s up until that dramatic victory in 2019. Remember the Dre Greenlaw tackle on the... That was at Seattle, right? When we beat them at the end of 2019 to get the division title. Dre Greenlaw made that tackle on the goal line. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was in Seattle. That was a road game, and that was the streak breaker, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, I'm still faithful, okay? That's still more than a lot of fans will remember, okay? So give me a little credit there. To be dominated like that by one team at one location, especially for so long, it's got to be demoralizing. But the Lions are right now the division leaders. They're first place in the NFC Central or NFC North. NFC North, 3-1. Green Bay, they've had, they lost Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. They've been unsteady, and tonight they fell 34-20. The Lions. Let's go back in time to the 2020-2021 offseason, when the Lions swung that trade with the Rams and sent Jared Goff to... Let me just sidetrack. My friends and I were my friends and I on my YouTube chat were tossing around childish nicknames you would give pro athletes if you were say sitting in the stands and you wanted to taunt them. And one of the names thrown out there, and I can't believe it's someone with a third grade mentality and sense of humor as I often have, someone tossed out the name Jared Goof, and it was just so childish and so silly. I couldn't help but laugh at it. Jared Goof. If you are it's too bad he's not still with the Rams, because I would be calling him that as a division rival if he were still there. But now I'm really for the guy to succeed now. Detroit needs something to cheer about, and since they got Jared Goff, that first year wasn't so great. Was that the first year of Dan Campbell? I think Dan Campbell, the coach, was there the year before. I want to say, the kneecaps and all that stuff. I want to say that was the year before that he joined the Lions. And then Goff came in, and the Lions did not have a good year. The Rams, on the other hand, with Matt Stafford, the longtime, now former Lions quarterback, won a freaking Super Bowl. Knocked my Niners out in order to do it. So, thank you, Jaquaski Tartt, but I'm not here to talk about the past. But since then, the Rams have fallen on hard times. They're still very talented. They still have a number of key guys who can help them win football games. But they're, this year they're 1-2. Last year I want to say they were something like what were they 6-11 or something like that last year. Nowhere near contending with my Niners. So it's been do you and meanwhile the Lions, as you remember, they finished down the stretch strong last season, and then they are off to a good start this season with Goff and Stafford. So what we have here is a trade, one of the rare trades that, for the short term at least, it's working out for both teams. There's no clear loser in this trade, because your goal when you make a trade, and this is why I have these. I'm gonna have a Pop-Tart and some coffee while I talk to you. And this is why we have these arguments about. Isn't the whole point winning the Super Bowl? It's not the whole point of pro sports, right? It's to win your championship. And you're talking about swinging trades and what happens after you win the championship. Because you look at the Giants, for example, San Francisco Giants. All right. One of the key talking points that always comes up is their trade for Carlos Beltran from the New York Mets, where they sent their young prospect Zach Wheeler to the New York Mets. He was a pitcher, still is. And Beltran put up decent numbers for the Giants, but he wasn't great, and the team wasn't great. They didn't make the playoffs. That was the year Buster Posey had his leg broken. And Zach Wheeler, meanwhile, went on to do some great things for the Mets after recovering from some arm problems, and now he's a great pitcher for the Phillies too. So there's still people who this day will say, "Oh, the Giants blew it. The Giants blew it making that trade for Carlos Beltran because they lost Zach Wheeler." The Mets. Tell me how many championships did the Mets or the Phillies win with Zach Wheeler, which is supposed to be your ultimate goal, right? How many championships have they won with Wheeler? The answer is
0. The answer is 0. 0, Coke 0, Coke 0, Angel 0, 0. The number on the back of Gilbert Arenas' uniform, 0.
0. After the trade for Carlos Beltran, the Giants have since won 2 more World Series after winning one the year before they got him. Did Beltran have anything to do with those? No. I don't think his leaving as a free agent after the 2011 season resulted in any draft picks that helped the Giants. I don't think so. And it couldn't have, because they would not have been able to contribute that quickly. A draft pick in 2012, which is when it would have landed to them, would not have been able to join the team in 2014 likely and contribute to a championship. So the Giants may not have won that trade in the short term in terms of production out of the player they got, but their fortunes at the end of the day, at the end of the season, are so much better than anything the Mets and Phillies can offer. The Phillies did make the World Series last year. They lost. The Mets did make the World Series in 2016 or 2015. They lost. All right. The Giants won 2 World Series after making the trade. So it couldn't have been such a bad trade that it hurt the franchise. It set the franchise back. Right? But there's still people who argue. But I don't have the energy for that. All I can tell you is, going back to the NFL, this trade here between Stafford and Goff and the Rams and the Lions, the Rams won it hands down in the short term, which you have to factor this in. This is something that people also forget, which is what they were trying to do. Remember, Matt Stafford, you're not trading for Matt Stafford in the year 2020 or 2021, whenever it was. You're not trading for him in the hopes of building a perennial contender, a dynasty, right? You're trading for him because you want to win in the year 2021, maybe at the latest 2022. And they did. Stafford, in spite of all the losing he did in Detroit, all the upheaval, losing Megatron early on and all that stuff, different head coaches, everything going on, the ownership situation, they had some stuff going on there. Stafford was always capable of putting up good numbers as long as his back held up. He gets to Los Angeles, his back holds up for that season, they win the Super Bowl. Goff, now the younger of the two by far. Goff, I think, is 27, somewhere around there. So he's at least 6 years younger than Stafford, somewhere in there. And he's now got a system in place that's working for him. They've built around him a little bit. They got some they got some defense. Campbell seems like he's working as a coach now. It took him a couple years to get where he wanted to get. The team is doing well. And the Lions have won their share of the trade. They've gotten what they hope to get, which is down the road a future impact from their quarterback. Remember, Goff's stock under McVay with the Rams had fallen. He had that 1 year where they got to the Super Bowl. What was that, 2018? Yeah, 2018. I want to say it was 2018 where they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl and couldn't score. It was something like 13-3 or whatever it was in that Super Bowl. It was horrible. God, that was horrible. Good thing I was with my buddies drinking. That would have been awful to watch at home alone. But Goff, his stock was pretty high that season and leading up to that season. But after that, it gradually dropped to where he's fallen. He's like Carson Wentz, Super Bowl, or he wasn't the Super Bowl winning. Well, he did win. He got a Super Bowl ring the year before. Goff did. Goff went to the Super Bowl. Wentz, remember, was with the Eagles, was on his way to winning an MVP award before he got hurt late in the season. Nick Foles had to step in and win that. And then Wentz's stock slowly dropped, and other than little bursts here and there, it's never really fully come all the way back. Now he's not even in the league. And teams who are desperate for quarterbacks, like the Jets, who lost Aaron Rodgers, are, now listen to this, they're happier with Trevor Siemian and Zach Wilson for the time being. We're going to get to Wilson in a minute. They're happier with that combination of quarterbacks than bringing in somebody like Wentz. If I'm Carson Wentz, a former MVP contender, and my stock has fallen to the point where teams would rather trot out Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian than even give me a workout, I might have to move on from football. I might have to just move on. That's telling. And from what I hear, is that Carson Wentz does not lack for his share of ego. So he's not in the league right now. Goff is on his way to becoming Wentz, out of the league, or at best a backup. And he's turned things around. He's I don't follow the Lions super close. I don't know all their personnel people. I don't, but I do know that Goff does not look anywhere near where he was starting to look as his career wound down with the Rams. Because he played our Niners twice a year. Towards the end, obviously, he was of his tenure there. He was not looking like the same guy that he was when they went to the Super Bowl. So good for Jared Goff. Stay in Detroit. Finish your career in Detroit. Don't come back to the Rams or the Seahawks, because I will call you Jared Goof, and I will enjoy it. This is so stupid. Jared Goof. How much of a child do you have to be? Go Pop Tart. So, we talked about Zach Wilson, Jets quarterback. And, there's one thing that, and this is not Skills on Pills yet, my Skills on Pills segment, I have a special guy set aside for that. But if there's anything that bothers the average fan, the average intelligent fan, it's when they're fed a bowl of crap and told that it's a bowl of cereal. Like, we can't think for ourselves. We can't see what's happening right in front of us. All right? And the reason I'm bringing that up is the Zach Wilson situation with the Jets. As you know, 4 plays into the Jets season, their offensive season this year, Aaron Rodgers, their big superstar Hall of Fame acquisition for quarterback, went down with what turned out to be the season-ending torn Achilles. Aaron Rodgers, mind you, had been brought in by the Jets because their quarterback of the last couple seasons before that had been very good. That quarterback was Zach Wilson, right? Now you have Wilson. Wilson did stick around with the Jets as Aaron Rodgers' backup, which, as it turns out, they needed him a lot sooner and a lot more urgently than they anticipated. 4 plays into the season, Rodgers was done. He didn't even complete a pass. All right. So here comes Zach Wilson, and this is what is the irking part of the whole situation is, and I know you got to build guys up. You can't tear guys down when you're doing interviews, when you're talking to the media. You can't. I know that. You got to have them, if you're a coach, if you're an executive, you got to have them believing that they're happy with you, right? You got to have them believing that they're content. Their teammates, if you're a quarterback, you need your respect from teammates. You need to be a leader, and you can't lead people who don't believe in you and or out loud don't believe in you. And Zach Wilson, the Jets coaches, and pretty much any interview I've read from anyone concerning Zach Wilson, who has not played well since taking over for Aaron Rodgers, which he didn't play well. I don't know why they thought he would. He didn't play well for Aaron Rodgers, or didn't play well for the Jets before Rodgers. So he comes in, he's thrown in a situation that no one expected. He's not playing well. The Jets won that game without Rodgers, and they've lost each game since. So 1-2. Wilson has been everyone who's talked about him that I've heard up until a couple days ago, which we're getting to, has been praising Wilson to the fans, praising Wilson to the media. Zach Wilson's a great quarterback. He's this, he's that. And I understand you can't tear the guy down when he struggles, but what you also must understand, and my voice can elevate a little bit here, not too loud because it's kind of late, but what you got to understand, media, coaches, you're not speaking to morons. If Zach Wilson was the leader, the player, the quarterback, the person that you really wanted to lead this team all along, if that is what you really wanted all along, like you're claiming, like you're painting a picture, making it sound like you're totally happy with how things have turned out, you make it sound like you're totally confident in Zach Wilson. You make it sound like you're completely happy, you're not unhappy to lose Rodgers. With Wilson in charge at the center, you feel like you can still win games. If all that is true, then I just have one question for you. I'm going to try not to yell it, but this has been building up inside me for a while. I just have one question for all you Jets people about Zach Wilson. If all that was true about Zach Wilson, why in the hell would you trade for Rodgers? Okay, I managed to show a little restraint there. We're not stupid. We know you traded for Rodgers because you have no confidence in Zach Wilson. We know that. It's okay to say it out loud as long as you do so in a respectful, professional sort of way. You can say, I'm just pulling this out of my butt. Now, if I can pull this out of my butt, granted it's a big butt, but if I can pull this out of my butt, then someone in PR, a coach who actually is in the office with the Jets every day can do better. This is what I would say about Zach Wilson when asked about, we didn't go into the season with plans to have Zach Wilson as our quarterback. Zach has had his ups and downs here in New York, but we kept him around here because we feel like he has potential to have more ups and downs going forward. We're going to keep working with him, and we're going to keep hoping for the best. It's probably not going to be as good as it would have been with a guy like Rodgers. Who could perform at the level of a guy like Rodgers, who's going to the Hall of Fame first ballot when he retires? But Zach is capable, and we feel like if we just work with him, perhaps we can win some ball games in spite of a tough situation without Aaron Rodgers. That's all you have to say, and I just pulled that out of my butt. If I can do that, then the Jets PR people can do. The Jets PR people can do that. All right, coffee break. If you don't know, I eat and drink on camera. I don't care. It's my show. Do what I want to do. Talk about what I want to talk about. Y'all just listen. If you don't like it, turn it off. Even I hope you don't turn it off. I hope what you do is buy Pop-Tarts so I can say that I'm boosting their sales and get me an endorsement deal. Joe Namath was one of the few guys who called this Wilson situation what it is. He said he went on record as saying he's tired of seeing Zach Wilson. And while not every Jet obviously feels the same way, no Jet really came out and said Namath is wrong, which typically happens in situations like this where you have franchise legends from the past get on record as disparaging franchise players of the present. It's the whole get off my lawn thing, your generation, blah, blah, blah. Usually you get at least 5-10 guys coming out in strong support of the teammate who is getting attacked, quote unquote, by the legend. I mean, remember the whole David Price situation with Dennis Eckersley? Dennis Eckersley didn't even really, it wasn't even Price that Dennis Eckersley was calling out. It was Eduardo Rodriguez. And Price gave Eckersley a very hard time over that, and his teammates stood by him. So it's not always the case when you have legend versus current star. I use the word star loosely, but the fact that Namath did not get destroyed, at least not anywhere that I read, did not get destroyed by Wilson's Jets teammates, tells me that he was onto something. And that he is far from the only person tired of seeing Zach Wilson in a Jets jersey. But that's all they got right now. Him and Simeon. And situation, it's a bad situation. They didn't count on Rodgers hurting his leg. So that's what's going on with the New York Jets situation. I also want to talk to you about, I haven't talked to you about the Nick Chubb injury. And the fallout from that is that I knew Nick Chubb was a great player. I didn't know he was putting up the numbers that he's been putting up so far in his career. He's put up some insane yards per carry numbers. He's averaging, every year he's been in the league, he's up over 5 yards a carry, which is a lot. And this year he was up to 6.1 yards a carry before he got unfortunately hurt. And about that injury against the Steelers back on Monday Night Football, which was I think it was September 13th. I've only seen it out of the corner of my eye. I don't want to see it up close. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see his leg go like that while I'm looking directly at it. And I'm usually not a squeamish guy. I'm really not. To an extent, there's certain injuries that I don't like to see, but I have seen them, and I have not thrown up or been left in a corner crying. There is one NFL injury. There are actually two. The Joe Theismann injury. I've never seen it. I never intend to. If it was too bad for Lawrence Taylor himself to watch, then it's too bad for me to watch. The other injury is the one that happened to a certain player about a little bit over a decade ago. And I can't say the name or even the team because it's just too traumatizing. I don't want anyone else to bring it up to me. Ended his career on the spot. And yeah. So other than that, I've been able to watch at least once or twice all the torn ACLs and broken legs. Zach Miller's injury, for the Bears in the end zone that time where they took the touchdown away from him. I watched that. Didn't have any problem with it. Nick Gates a couple years ago, I watched that. Didn't have any problem with it. I was looking when Tristan Wirfs, the lineman for the Tampa Bay Bucks last season, I happened to be looking at the offensive line. Just for some reason, I was looking for penalties. I don't know why. Yeah, I do things like that when I watch football. And I was looking right at Tristan Wirfs. When his leg went, I saw him get hurt before the announcers did. Before anyone else on the field even knew he was hurt. I saw it. It didn't bother me that much. I can handle contortion up to a point. Kevin Ware never bothered me. Now, granted, I'm not somebody who's just going to sit in front of a camera or sit in front of a screen and watch repeated over and over again all these torn ACLs and broken legs and broken arms. Andrew Bogut is an elbow injury I don't want to watch. So I'm not perfect in that regard, but I'm not a wuss either. I can handle most injuries, even with contortion. But Nick Chubb is just based upon the things people were saying in various comment sections of, for example, NFL.com and YouTube and Facebook, or it's posted there. It's posted on, obviously, had to be 4 or 5 different videos of it posted on TikTok. And TikTok. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit of fame here. TikTok, shut up. But basically, what made me not want to watch the Nick Chubb video replay is not only that the network didn't replay it, wouldn't replay it, just like with the Gates and Wirfs injuries, they wouldn't replay it, but the screams. And the screams, the people were describing that the microphones were picking up his screaming in agony down the field. And football players are not people who scream a lot, unless it's in, joyous, hey, I got a touchdown, that kind of screaming, right? They're not going to scream in pain because you can't play football if you can't handle pain. Pain hurts, right? You can't be screaming all the time unless you're in total agony. Well, Nick Chubb was in agony. And some of these injuries, shock kicks in, the endorphins kick in, adrenaline, all that stuff. And you, like with Theismann, I've seen the aftermath of the Theismann injury. I haven't actually seen it happen, but I've seen the immediately following when Lawrence Taylor was motioning for the cart and for help. Lawrence Taylor, if you don't know, was the guy who tackled Theismann, Giants versus Redskins, 1985. Tackled Theismann and basically destroyed his leg. And Lawrence Taylor, who was by probably the least wussiest person who's ever been born, he was freaking out. So, yeah, I haven't seen that injury. I'm not going to see that injury. But I did see the aftermath. And Theismann was not in any visible pain. You would have looked at him and thought that he was just, inconvenienced. Like, if you've seen the video of Mike Matheny, former Major League manager, when he got beamed, hit in the mouth by a pitch back in, I want to say it was 98 or 99. The pitch hit him right in the mouth, and he just stood there as if, like a bug flew in his food, right? He was just, inconvenienced and annoyed more than anything. He was just like, huh, I have been hit in the mouth by a baseball. This is not what I needed today. And then the next thing you know, he's spitting blood and teeth out of his mouth. Like it's something we do every day. Hey, what you doing, Skillz? Oh man, I'm just over here chilling, spitting out some teeth, let some blood out. You know you be when you're just chilling and blood gets in your mouth, you just gotta spit that out. Oh yeah, I know that, Skillz. So anyway, I'm not gonna watch the Chubb injury. I know it was bad, I know it was terrible, but if any good came of it, it opened my eyes to just how freaking good this guy is. And that's another reason why it's tragic whenever any player suffers a horrible injury. But what if Chubb can't come back? And if he does come back, what if he's not the same? There's no way he'd ever be the same. Now, granted, he only tore, according to a report that came out 5 days after the injury, because people were concerned that he tore every lateral ligament in his knee, medial, posterior, all the cruciate ligaments in his knee. They thought they were all gone. Did I say all the lateral ligaments? All the cruciate ligaments is what I meant. But they thought that his leg was destroyed. They thought his career would be over. They didn't think there was any chance at first. Just looking at it, thought it was done for good. But thankfully, as it turns out, in spite of the graphic nature of the injury and the screams and so have you, Chubb's medial collateral ligament appears to be the only one that was damaged. And they're going to repair it. Obviously, he's not coming back anytime this season. But with some hard work and some grit, if he wants to, he should be able to take the field sometime next year. And that's a great thing, because you don't want to see a guy's career end with. You don't want to see any guy's career end with injury, but it happens. We're going to talk about former Detroit Lion in a little bit, who not only had his career end on the field, almost his life. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But especially a player of Chubb's caliber, for a team like the Cleveland Browns, who are trying to get back to some sort of level of respectability, they have not been respectable for most of their existence, at least in my lifetime, my fandom. And they were just taking steps to get back there. Chubb was going to be part of the solution, and this happens, and now they've been set back. So we're definitely here at Skillz On Sportz, here at Lingus Mafia. We're definitely sending best wishes, speedy recovery, thorough recovery, whatever Nick Chubb has to do to get back on that field for his own sake, for the NFL's sake, do it, do the work, do what the doctors tell you, do what the therapists tell you, get back on that field. You are a great, great player. And if they fix you up properly, you can still be an effective player, I believe. I don't think we've seen the last of Nick Chubb. I don't. He had a brother in the league. Who was his brother? I don't say his brother. I know his brother. I don't think his brother was a tailback. Can't think of it at the moment. I'll put that up. But yeah, Nick Chubb, we here want you back on the field as soon as possible. Want you back well and healthy. What else is going on in the NFL? I had wondered why Kareem Hunt was available so readily to go to Cleveland. I thought he was still on Cleveland, right? The Browns signed him to replace Nick Chubb, or at least to take his roster spot. He's not going to replace Nick Chubb; he's take his roster spot. But I didn't know Hunt was available. Now we know Hunt has a past. There's the reason why he was even on the Browns in the first place and not on the Chiefs was because he had that situation with that girl down there. I don't need to rehash all that. But Kareem Hunt was available. He signed with the signed with the Browns for about $4 million. What was reported. He was. It turns out that I didn't hear any of this last season because the truth is, I just don't really care about Browns news for the most part. I don't really. After Baker Mayfield was traded, I stopped even really remember they even existed. But Kareem Hunt turns out had problems with Coach Kevin Stefanski. It turned out he had made a couple of trade requests last season, and he was trying to get a good deal this season to come in and be someone's running back, but none materialized. And so he was one of several notable free agent running backs still available. So the Browns, they know him, and whether or not they particularly are fond of him because of all the stuff that went on with the coach and with his trade request. The truth is, you're in a position where you both need each other. Okay, Hunt needs a paycheck. Browns need a couple of fresh legs. And sometimes in life, not just in sports, but in life, you got to suck it up. And that's what Kareem Hunt is doing. That's what the Browns are doing. Hey, let's just get through this. Hopefully Nick Chubb comes back next year. You're going to get $4 million, right? It's better than the $0 million you're making right now. So Hunt comes in. He's taking over for that roster spot for Chubb. I don't think he's going to be the number one back. He's going to split time with who's the other guy? Chubb was splitting time with. I forget his name. Young guy. So Kareem Hunt is now back with the Browns, and it's probably like he never left because nothing has really changed. We had the Players of the Month awards come out. Well, Pop-Tart. And we'll get into that. That is the NFC Offensive Player of the Month, none other than represent Christian McCaffrey of my San Francisco 49ers. Boy, when I heard they were getting him in a trade, I was not excited. Not that I didn't want him. I just didn't think he'd be able to stay on the field. He hadn't been on the field hardly the last couple of years before that. But not only have they managed to keep him on the field despite occasional overuse, including last week, but they've kept him from nothing more than just minor injuries, which he was missing games upon games in his last 2 years with Carolina. That's why he was available in the first place, I'm pretty sure. That and his growing salary. So McCaffrey has been everything for the Niners they could have hoped for and dreamed for. He is your NFC Offensive Player of September. AFC Offensive Player of September, none other, and I'm going to botch this up, but bear with me, I'm going to try anyway. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He's been in the league now for 3 or 4 years. I still can't get his name right on the first try. So we just call him Tua. Tua had that 466-yard game. I believe it was in week 1. He's been tearing it up ever since. Miami's 3-0. He's, a year ago, we weren't sure if the guy was going to be able to keep playing at all. He's getting concussed, it seemed like, every other half of football. And it was getting, he was shut down briefly, and we wondered if he just even would be able to stay on the field. But now he's avoiding those head injuries. He's not, has not been missed any time. I don't think he's missed any time due to injury. I know he sat out a few plays due to the score, right? But he's healthy, and he's doing some things down in Miami. Miami's 3-0, one of the 3 undefeated teams in the NFL so far. Here as we enter week 4, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Your NFC Defensive Player of the Month, Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons, pass rushing supreme, 4 sacks in the month of September, which is a lot. He was also pressuring the quarterbacks all over the place, doing his thing down there in Dallas. This is his first monthly award. He was the NFC Offensive Rookie of the Month back, when what was that, 16, 17, whenever he debuted his first year. But he's never been the Player of the Month, defensive, and now he is. He's got that on his mantle. Good for him. AFC counterpart, our Defensive Player of the Month goes to the great TJ Watt, who has 6 sacks in September so far for the Steelers. Did he get Brock Purdy that week that they played us? He might have. I don't know. But TJ tearing it up. He's going to end up being even better than his brother was, and that is saying something, because JJ was a force, and TJ's even better than JJ was. So, congratulations to those 4 players, and we will see Micah Parsons. Me and my 49ers will see Micah Parsons here coming up. So that should be an interesting battle, McCaffrey versus Parsons, as we enter October in the NFL. More NFL stuff going on. How did we wait so long to get to this? Another reason Tua won that Player of the Month award. Well, because he threw a whole bunch of touchdowns against the Broncos this past Sunday. In case you didn't hear, I'm sure you've heard by now. 70-20 was the final. Miami at Denver. It was a good day for Denver sports. Rockies had a bad day that day too. Luckily, the Nuggets didn't play. The Avalanche didn't play. But boy, that was. I've never seen. I can't remember ever seeing a 60-point game in the NFL. I've always wanted to see a 60-point game in the NFL. I don't think I had. Seen some 59s, because usually when you get up that high, the other team is nowhere near you, and you're gonna, take your foot off the gas a little bit. And Miami tried. From what I was watching, because I replayed some of the game later on, Miami was trying to let up a little bit on Denver. They didn't want to destroy them. As you may know by now, Miami had a chance to kick a field goal that would have set the record for most points scored in an NFL game. Would have broken the record of 72. They would have given them 73. But they chose to not do that, even as the crowd, the Denver crowd, urged them to. And they still didn't do it, right? So Miami was not trying to embarrass Denver. And you see these stories. And this should have been my Skillz on Pills thing about running up the score. Is that you see, at least I see, in different youth leagues, more than one youth league, I've seen stories where a coach has been either fired or otherwise disciplined, maybe suspended or whatever, because his team kicked the crap out of their opponent. Even when he was not trying to kick the crap out of the opponent. Even when the only other option they had at the point was to maybe just hand the ball to their opponent on every possession to let them score. Right? Seen it in boys' leagues, seen it in girls' leagues. Usually in basketball, running up the score. I remember there was a girls' league, I want to say about 5 years ago, maybe less, where the final score was something like 100 to, I want to say it was literally 100-2. That's really unfortunate. But my whole take is, why in the first place, if this game had the capability and the potential to end in a 100-2 score, someone should have seen it before it even started and either forfeited it, changed the opponent. Then you should not have let that game even play if there was any hope of it ending in a 100-2 final. Right? At least that's the way I look at it. This camera angle looks like I have half a mustache. I don't have half a mustache. I have scruff everywhere. It's even, I promise you. It's just the shadows. But it's like if the old baseball league I was in, which was a great league, but we were all amateurs. None of us had even played. I think one of us had played college ball, and that was it. The rest of us were all amateurs, and we all played like amateurs. We could catch and throw and hit, but we weren't going to be turning the heads of any scouts anytime soon in professional baseball. That said, if we had been lined up one day to play my amateur team against, let's say, the Houston Astros, even the pre trash can Houston Astros, the Lastros, the ones who lost 100 games a year for years and years, they would have kicked the living tar out of us. We would have been lucky to make contact with the baseball. We would have been lucky to hit a ball out of the infield. We would have been lucky for them to even foul a ball off instead of just hitting it over every fence in sight. That game would have and should have never gotten off the ground. Thankfully, it didn't. But for that girls' league, that game should have never gotten off the ground because someone with authority had to know in advance that game was going to end a certain way. But instead, what they did was they you don't want to hurt anyone's confidence, right? So they let the game go on, and the coach ends up paying the price. I think the coach was terminated because the score was 102. But even though if the coach had wanted to, the score probably could have been 202. That's how bad it was. And I don't know all the other details about that game, but I do know that that's on the league. That's not on each team. When you play, you're teaching. Yeah, you're worried about the players who are getting beaten down. What about the players who are doing the beating? You're teaching that it's wrong to succeed. You're teaching that it's wrong to be good. Is it wrong to be good? Because if we've reached the point in society where it's wrong to be good, then move me to Mars. I mean, I pretty much look like Mars already as it is, right? Moving back to the Dolphins and the Broncos game. I meant to have all the records and stats from that game to you. I don't have that, and now it turns out that I've used up 3/4 of my show, and we're going to have to move on from the NFL after I tell you one more story, or two more stories that are making headlines. One of them is stupid. The whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. Who cares? Players date celebrities all the time, I'm sure. I didn't know Travis Kelce was even single. He looks like the kind of guy who would be married by, he's about 30 years old now, but apparently he's not. If he is married, then he's not a very good husband. And Taylor Swift, I respect Taylor Swift. I have a number of her songs on my playlist. She's a great artist. I don't know what kind of human being she is. I've never met her, but I've heard things, and I do know some things. And let me just say that I hope for both their sakes that they have fun and that no one gets hurt. All right, let's just put it that way. I don't give a crap if she's coming to the games, the Chiefs games or not. I don't care. None of you should care unless you're Travis Kelce's previously unmentioned wife. And the last thing I want to mention, because this is a little home hitting for me, the last thing I want to mention about from the NFL is the awful situation coming out of the Las Vegas area where pass rusher Chandler Jones of the Raiders is going through what appears to be a really bad mental health crisis. He has not been allowed in the Raiders buildings all since training camp through today. He claims he doesn't know why this is going on. There was a hold, or I don't know if they put a hold on it, but I do know that they came and got him. According to him, against his will, he was picked up by law enforcement last week and taken to, I guess, a mental hospital or whatever. And I guess I don't know if they tried to medicate him and he wouldn't take. I don't know all those details, but I do know that, was it today or yesterday, he put out a series of tweets or X's or posts, whatever you want to call them, that basically would indicate that the man's in serious mental health crisis. That he's not all right in his mind right now. He even went as far as to, among many other things, accuse Coach Josh McDaniel of helping participate in the one of the murders that Aaron Hernandez committed when they were both up in New England together. Just the ramblings of a man who's not right, ramblings of a man who's not well, and I don't hide the fact that I have mental health issues. I suffer from depression and anxiety. I take medication for those things. And 5 years ago, last week, or 2 weeks ago, 5 years and 2 weeks ago, I attempted suicide. And I've seen therapists. I have a therapist. I have a psychiatrist. I know how mental health can throw your existence out of whack. And without proper help and proper medication, I don't know what would have happened to me. And I sincerely hope, I don't know Chandler Jones at all as a human being. I know him as a football player, as most of you only know him as a football player. But from one man to another man, I am seriously hoping that Chandler Jones, the people in his life, direct him towards someone, somewhere who can help him. And they don't just let this go by like it's nothing. Like what we saw with Alden Smith and his alcoholism, right? Similar situation, not exactly the same, but similar, where Alden Smith was allowed to just waste a Hall of Fame career at the bottom of a bottle, repeatedly. And no one stepped in his life to help him. And now his career is done. I don't know where he's at in life, but it's probably not in a great spot. Chandler Jones, I strongly doubt you'll hear this, but if you do hear this, please get the help you need. You need, because based upon what you wrote, unless you're really just the greatest troll artist of all time, get the mental health help you need. And there's no shame in it either. You are a big, strong man, all right? Kevin Love is a big, strong man. He needed help. I know that there's a number of examples in the sports world, people who have been where Chandler Jones is. Even Aubrey Huff, who's not very well liked anymore, former San Francisco Giant first baseman, he had mental health issues. He had to get help for it. He's certainly, fits your macho guy description. All right, Chandler Jones, someone in his life, help him. I needed help. I got help. Saved my life probably. Do it for him too. NBA news. I'm not have time to go through everything I want to go through, but NBA news. Big news of this week was Rudy Gay signed with the Warriors. Rudy Gay still in the NBA. No, that's not the huge news. I'm pulling your legs. Damian Lillard all off season since the end of the 2022-23 season was going to go to the Miami Heat, or he wasn't going to go anywhere, or he was just going to not play or whatever. He made his request, and he politely said in his own way he only was going to play for the Miami Heat once the Blazers, he finally told the Blazers he wanted out after, 11 years? Well, the Miami Heat were like, we made the finals without you, and I think we're going to be all right. So they didn't want to put on, I guess, all that extra money on their payroll when they felt like they were only, a couple of steps away from winning the championship without him. So they never made that trade. They never swung that trade. Lillard remained in flux all off season. He was still a Blazer officially. Finally, the trade was swung. Dame Lillard is going to be a Milwaukee Buck next season. Portland received Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, and it's anybody's guess if they're going to keep Holiday, because Portland is kind of semi rebuilding mode. They were awful last year, and they're going to get even worse without Lillard, obviously. Jusuf Nurkic, he of broken leg fame. The big man goes to the Suns. The Grayson Allen goes from the Bucks to the Suns. A couple of the guys who you probably don't know. And then Lillard's going to be in Milwaukee. So that's how all that shook out. Drew Holiday, thank you for helping us win a championship. Thank you for helping win us our first championship in 50 years. Thank you for all those memories. But we'd rather have Damian Lillard, even though he's only a little bit better than you. He's better enough to where we're going to just punt you out of town. Thanks for the memories. Don't let the door hit you in the ass when you leave the locker room. Man, pro sports is brutal, man. Drew helped him win a freaking championship, and next thing you know, he's out the door. But that's the way it goes. Damian Lillard is one of the few point guards in the NBA better than Drew Holiday. The only thing he doesn't have that Drew has is the ring, and he's trying to get that ring. And so, the other thing, and I told this to my friends, the Bucks ain't playing around. Giannis, did you see the picture circulating on TikTok? There's a photo, at least. I don't know if there's any video out there. Giannis has been working with Hakeem Olajuwon, only the second greatest center of all time, in my opinion, behind Shaq. And my opinion, of course, is a little biased, but hey, whatever. There was a photo of the two of them working out what appeared to be at the University of Houston, where Olajuwon, of course, was drafted out of by the Rockets. And could you imagine Giannis with all the game he's already got doing a dream shake? Can you imagine Giannis with all the game he's already got doing a dream shake with about 50 other low post moves that Olajuwon had? If Giannis can start backing people down on top of everything he already does, she can start doing Olajuwon moves on people. Just give him the ring now. Give him the trophy now, because there was no Olajuwon couldn't be stopped, and Olajuwon could not do half of the athletic type stuff, the high flying stuff that Giannis can do. Those two guys put together as one player, not fair. If Giannis could do that and start hitting threes at like a 35% ratio, he might have to. He might penetrate the top 10, NBA's all-time top 10. If he were able to do those things, someone in the existing top 10 would have to step aside. I'm not going to get into all that right now. We don't really have the time for it. What we do have time for is one more bit of NBA news I wanted to bring up, which is I don't know how recent this was done, but there was an interview on TikTok about Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum of the Celtics superstar guard was talking about his growing up and how people did not really believe he was going to make it to the NBA, and he told a story of how he came around and said that his dream was to go to the NBA. And people sitting around him laughed in his face. Laughed in his face. I mean, it speaks volumes to the kind of people they are to laugh in the face of someone who's sharing their dream with you. Never mind the fact that they turn out to be dead wrong. But the reason I'm bringing this up is, thank God Tatum didn't listen to them. And thank God that his mother did support him. Because wherever you are out there, my late uncle always said, and one thing he always told me repeatedly was, to never lose sight of your dreams. Always pursue your dreams. I've done that. I've tried to do that to the best of my ability. Don't you guys ever let anyone tell you can't do something. Last bit of news before we wrap the show up. We're going to start with my favorite segment, Skillz On Pills. In addition to the antidepressants I mentioned earlier, I also take blood pressure medication. And part of the reason why I have to take blood pressure medication is because of all the stupidity and horror and bad behavior and incompetence I see in the world of sports. And today's subject, Skillz on Pills, why I need my blood pressure medicine tonight, is because of Angel Hernandez, the one and only, the legend, the man, the myth, the incompetent Angel Hernandez, who somehow remains an MLB umpire well into, he's got to be 20 years now or somewhere around there, maybe even more than that, in spite of being universally thought of as awful. Awful! There are websites, there are YouTube channels dedicated to his incompetence and his lack of talent as an umpire, his lack of personal skill, his idiocy in believing that he wasn't promoted to World Series because of his race and not his horrible ability to do his job properly. He makes bad calls on a regular basis, and some of these calls aren't even close, and you wonder what the guy's deal is. But tonight's one of his all-time worst in terms of the lack of quality of the call. Call was absurdly bad. And then on top of that, also the end result, the fall of his bad call. It was Phillies. Bryce Harper was batting. Bryce Harper had 2 strikes. Angel Hernandez is umpiring third base. Harper does he maybe does a quarter swing, not even a half swing. He does maybe a quarter swing, at most a 2/5 swing. That's an absolute most. At a ball in the dirt. To anyone with a naked eye, including Harper himself, he didn't swing. He stopped his swing before he went around. Home plate umpire umpire let the catcher appeal to third base, where Hernandez promptly, with no hesitation, rung Harper up for strike 3. And Harper, the funny part is, if there's any funny part to this thing, he didn't even realize that he was called out. The thought of him being called out on his check swing that minimal, it hadn't even crossed his mind. Right? So he's taking off his shin guard and doing all his batting gloves, getting ready to go to first base. When suddenly he hears the crowd react to Hernandez striking, the strikeout call. Harper promptly goes to Hernandez, gives him a well-deserved earful, as probably 25% of Major League Baseball players have done by now. That's how bad he is. And Hernandez does the only thing he can do, which is throw Harper out of the game. So the shining, the bright light on this bad situation was that a kid in the stands, Harper got ejected. Harper gave the kid a signed helmet. I guess he threw the helmet in the stands, and then later on he signed it or whatever. Kid's over the moon. So if any good came out of the situation, Angel Hernandez, that's why you are so bad. Your goal is to get kids souvenirs by angry ball players. And if that's your goal, you reached it, buddy. And if that's your goal, then there's going to be gifts for every kid in America. Because you are... Look, I know umpire's not easy. I briefly was a football referee. It's a thankless job. But yet somehow, most people manage to do it at a competent level in the major leagues. At the major league level, competence is all you're asking for. Not perfection, competence. You can't even do that. You never have been able to do that. You and Bob Davidson are complete discredits to your profession. And I can't wait till you're out of baseball long. And Davidson's been gone for a while now. I cannot wait till you're gone. I have no desire to see you umpire another game. I wish I could get rid of you myself. And the last two things I'll talk about for tonight's show, because we already reached an hour. How about that? That's something that has to do with my eating and inability to find ESPN articles. But still, we progressed. We moved along pretty quickly. Brooks Robinson died a couple days ago. Brooks Robinson, the Hall of Fame Orioles third baseman of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. He was Mr. Oriole before Cal Ripken. And probably even after Cal Ripken, to some people, to the people of his generation. He was as great a defensive third baseman as you'll ever find. He won 16 Gold Gloves in a row, and that's only been topped by Greg Maddux in Major League history. Maddux won 18 as a pitcher. Brooks was not as staunch as a hitter. I don't have his offensive stats in front of me, but you probably want to know a little bit about his offensive prowess. The man could hit too. He wasn't going to win you a game necessarily by hitting 4 home runs or anything like that, but he has some good offensive numbers to go along with his defensive wizardry at third base. Brooks Robinson, for his career, and all 23 of those years he played in Major League Baseball, 55 through 77, all with the Orioles. That's the record too. Right? Actually, that might be second behind Carl Yastrzemski. Or is it? No, that's tied with Carl Yastrzemski. Yastrzemski was 61 to 83, so that's a tie for most Major League seasons with one team. I'm talking about Carl, not Mike Yastrzemski. Yeah, Brooks did not have a great bat. He only had 200 RBI seasons, but he still put up 268 homers, drove home 1,357 runs, hit 267, played in 162 games or more 5 times. He was durable as heck. All the All-Star games, ton of All-Star games, all the Gold Gloves I mentioned. So, yeah, he was just a little short of 3,000 hits. He had 28-48. Debuted at age 18. So, Brooks Robinson passing away the other day at age 86. Rest in peace. I never saw him play. I never really even saw him interviewed, because he pretty much kept a low profile later on in life. But to all the fans of Baltimore, condolences. Loss of your hero. This like our equivalent of Willie Mays. When Willie Mays goes for the Giants, this must be what that will feel like, which is going to be complete devastation for us here in the Bay Area. Willie's 91. He's not going to be around for a whole lot longer. But rest in peace to the great Brooks Robinson. And the story I want to tell you, I tried to tell this to my friends in a YouTube chat. They didn't really care, but maybe you'll like this story a little bit too. It's from Reggie Jackson's first book, Reggie. And Reggie started out his major league career. He was with the Oakland A's, teammate of the great Raleigh Fingers. Raleigh Fingers, was a little... you never really knew what was going on with that guy. So Reggie tells a story of a time when there was a team meeting when the A's were about to play the Orioles. This is back when Brooks Robinson was having one of his great years. And also Frank Robinson, who was a Hall of Fame hitter, devastating hitter, 586 career home runs. They were both having great years in the American League, and the A's had a meeting on how they're going to pitch each of the Robinsons. And Reggie tells a story that Raleigh Fingers listens to all this for a minute, and his first response once they go over things is like, okay, I'm going to pitch those suckers the best way I know how. That was his answer. And somebody said, well, how are you going to pitch to Brooks, and how are you going to pitch to Frank? And Raleigh says, tell me again, which one is which? If you don't know, Brooks Robinson was white, Frank Robinson was black, for starters. And other than the name Robinson, they could not be, and playing for the Orioles, they cannot be described as similar in any other way. So, Raleigh, it was great. Last thing we'll talk about this week, and this is, I'm only talking about this because I meant to tell you guys this months ago, and it's just one of those ironic things. Back in June, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they had a pitcher on their roster, Rob Zastrinzy, I think is how you pronounce it, Zastrynzy. Can't say his name. Most people probably can't say his name. Right up there with, remember Mark Rybczynski, the Scrabble guy, as they called him. What was that? How did you say his name? God, I can't. Anyway, moving on. So the Pirates put this Rob Zastrinzy's character on the disabled list, or the injured list. And before I finished reading the transaction, I was like, okay, good, I won't have to worry about saying his name for a while. But listen to the name of the guy they called up to replace him. The Pirates had called up Carmen Myadzinski, I think is how you say it. Possibly the only minor leaguer whose name is harder to spell and pronounce than the guy going on the disabled list, injured list. And I think this would have been actually better if I told it in June when it actually happened. But hey, I just wanted to make sure I shared it with you. Zastrinzy replaced it by Mudzinski, and my tongue is paying the price every time I try to read that out loud. Next episode of Skillz On Sportz, we'll go over the pennant races that we didn't have time for today. We'll go over the wild card races, what my Giants are going to have to do going forward, what's left of the Oakland A's, what they are going to be facing going forward, as it appears that there's going to be a vote in November to determine their future as either the Oakland Athletics, the Las Vegas Athletics, or the Las Vegas insert name here. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye. This has been Skillz On Sportz, a Lingus Mafia production. I am your boy, Skillz Savage. I hope to see you again whenever I get around to doing another show. I hope you like this one. I don't apologize for eating the Pop-Tart. I don't apologize for drinking the coffee. I do apologize if it kept you from enjoying the show. Anyway, we'll see you again. Take care.